I know you're wondering, why am I up at 8 in the morning to listen to a talk on medical boards? But you'll be glad you did once we're through. Today we're going to discuss issues that affect your ability to practice medicine in your state and the ability of your patients to obtain and maintain the type of medical care they desire to obtain in your state. I'm going to talk to you about our experience in Texas in fighting the medical boards, but many of you here, how many of you are from Texas? Raise your hand. Okay, great. How many of you here from Texas realize there's a major battle going on in Texas with the Texas Medical Board? Raise your hand. Okay. Texas Medical Board. Texas Medical Board's mission by law is to protect and enhance the public's health, safety, and welfare, and to maintain standards of excellence for the practice of medicine. And they do this through licensing physicians, providing disciplinary action and education. Rather a noble goal, it appears to be, but we're going to show you and demonstrate how regulatory agencies, even with noble goals, can be tyrannical and despotic in their actions and in their behavior. There are 12 members that are physicians on the board, 7 consumer members. They're all appointed by the governor, and they have terms of 6 years, and these terms overlap. Tort reform came about in Texas in 2003. Tort, of course, is a civil wrong which injures or damages a person for which you can obtain remedy, legal remedy, in terms of being made whole again and having your damages paid for to compensate you for the injury you sustained. Tort reform affected more than just the practice of medicine, but tort reform was in Texas was pushed by the insurance agents and got the doctors to do their bidding, and they limited the amount of damages that a patient could claim against a physician, both in terms of real damages and in terms of punitive damages. When this happened, it made it really unfeasible in a lot of medical malpractice cases for a patient to obtain legal representation because plaintiff attorneys couldn't afford to take the case any longer. And let me state first, I never supported tort reform and still don't support tort reform. I think it's a dangerous precedent in our country and in our state, and it denies people the right to have proper redress of their grievances. What happened in tort reform is somebody had to discipline the doctors. Currently, without tort reform, if you committed damages or somebody thought you had damaged them or harmed them, you go to court. They can sue you and go to court. Most doctors go, I don't want to go to court. I'll go to court all day long and be able to face my accuser and the witnesses against me and be able to interrogate them and to have an attorney and have due process of law in a court of law where I have a jury that can listen to my case. If we don't have that, and we don't now in Texas in many ways because the role of really regulating medicine is gone from the attorneys and lawsuits to discipline doctors through lawsuits, has gone to regulatory agency, the Texas Medical Board. The TMB now views itself, rather than the judicial system taking care of patients, the Texas Medical Board sees itself as the protector of the patients. And they hold administrative hearings which replace judicial hearings. And they have quotas now for disciplining doctors that they've established that justifies their increased need for more funding from the state. Whenever you have regulatory agencies, you have a propensity to have tyrannical and despotic actions. What happens in a regulatory agency, the judicial, the executive, and the legislative functions all become concentrated in the hands of a few individuals and into one agency. And these individuals are unelected bureaucrats. And there's little or no oversight of their activity. They can't be removed from office by the citizens. They don't come up for election. the representatives that establish the regulatory agency, frankly, don't have the time to be looking after all the. In Texas, we have over 150 regulatory agencies. Well, we only have 150 state representatives, and there's no way anybody's going to stay right on top of any regulatory agency and know what it's doing. So basically, there's little or no oversight to their actions or activities. Agencies benefit legislators because the bureaucrats can be blamed for the actions of the agencies. So you go talk to your legislator and say, you know, the Texas Medical Board's coming down on me with anonymous complaints and I'm having to hire attorneys, and they go like, gosh, man, that's a terrible agency. It gives them the opportunity to blame somebody else for the damage that you're receiving from the agencies. And then they can curry your favor by saying, well, I'll help you with the agency. Unfortunately, political factions can capture the agencies with their political philosophy, and they can try to enforce their, in the terms of a medical board, can enforce their practice or guidelines of medicine upon you and your practice of medicine. In 1784, Thomas Jefferson warned about the consolidation of power. All powers of government, legislative, executive, and judiciary result to the legislative body. The concentrating of these powers in the same hands is the definition of despotic government. Remember, I said a regulatory agency or a medical board has judicial, legislative, executive powers. Becomes the judge, the juror, and the executioner. Whenever you give that kind of power to any group of individuals without any oversight or any accountability, no matter how good the motives are or the mission statement is, it is going to devolve into despotic and tyrannical actions that are going to have the effect of disciplining those individuals who don't agree with their standard of care. Or if they don't agree with your standard of care, they're going to go out of their way to make sure that you're disciplined or to make sure that your license is revoked. And that's happened in Texas. James Madison wrote in the Federalist Papers, the accumulation of all powers, legislative, executive, and judiciary in the same hands, whether of one or a few or many, whether hereditary, self-appointed, or elective, may justly be pronounced as the very definition of tyranny.